I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Well, the longtime leader of the St. Luke's healthcare system announced he will be retiring next year. He will join us to talk about that growing organization.
With the warm weather finally here, the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore will see an influx of visitors. We'll talk with the park superintendent.
And we'll have the latest installment of our Voices of Vietnam profiles of local veterans.
These stories in the business news up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. This week's show is recorded on Thursday afternoon, and it's a big weekend in the Twin Ports with Grandma's Marathon, Denny.
There will be thousands and thousands of people in town for the marathon. Of course, they're already here, many of them, most of them, getting ready with a big dinner on Friday night, and away they go on Saturday.
And I hear you'll be out there with your ham radio.
We'll be out there with ham radio doing emergency communications.
All right. Well, we've got some good guests on the show this week, so let's get started.
All right, that we do. Thank you very much, Julie. A significant change is coming at the top of one of the region's biggest healthcare systems. St. Luke's has a major hospital in Duluth, a hospital in Two Harbors, and 39 clinics across the region, plus urgent care and other facilities. In all, the healthcare system serves about 500,000 residents across the Northland. And joining us now is John Strange, President and CEO of St. Luke's, who announced his retirement this week. John, welcome. Thanks for being here. Your retirement's actually a little over a year away. Why announce so early?
Part of the issue is to allow for proper time for the board to find a replacement. They've been there 22 plus years, so the board has no experience in finding a new leader, which is a benefit, but it's also causes some issues. And we've done is we have a very formalized plan. The board has developed a transition committee and is working actively on developing who they want for the next CEO and then seeking out that candidate. And it takes a period of time to do that, and they want to do it right. They want to get a lot of input from a lot of people about what they want in the next leader of St. Luke's, and I think it's going to be an extremely good process.
Now, you came to St. Luke's in 1992, I understand.
Yes.
A lot has changed over the years. Talk about some of the transformation that you have seen with the facility and with the system that it's involved in.
Well, St. Luke's was initially a standalone hospital. We were served by independent physicians and then the physicians of the Duluth Clinic. Duluth Clinic eventually started to work more and more with St. Mary's, developed an SMDC, and became Essentia. It was interesting, Peter Person, who was the former CEO of Essentia, and I just had our jobs within 3 months of each other. And we started meeting, and we met every quarter from 1996 until he retired just a couple of years ago. And but St. Luke's then had a series of independent physicians who weren't replacing themselves when they retired. They are small businesses, and they just didn't have the capital to replace themselves. So the board made a decision in 1995-96 to get into the clinic business. And that was something that I had in my background.
Sure.
I had worked in a hospital clinic setting before I came to St. Luke's. So we started in 1995. I believe we had 2 employed physicians, and today we have over 270 employed providers. We went from about 4,000 clinic visits a year to last year we were 680,000 clinic visits. And
Aside from just numbers alone, John, in all the years you've been at St. Luke's, how has the delivery of health care changed in that period of time? Maybe not only at St. Luke's, but in the country.
In the country and for St. Luke's, I was at the cancer accreditation meeting this morning, and they were showing some cancer cases. And just the changes in cancer treatment have just been absolutely phenomenal. The ability to cure cancer or hold it at bay has just changed dramatically. And when you sit with the physicians and the staff and they talk about the kind of treatments they can do, the intervention of catheters for putting in stents and for going into people's body and to be able to treat specific areas, internally without having to make external openings. The pharmaceuticals, the genetics, the treatment has just changed so dramatically, and it's really kind of exciting for someone like me to be able to see people get better and to walk away from injuries and illnesses that previously would have been catastrophic. And that's been amazing, and that's happening throughout the country. St. Luke's enjoys having a large number of really highly trained physicians and staff, and we've been able to recruit in quite a few highly trained physicians to our region, probably over 180 physicians who have come to us, and then the staff to support them. It's been a phenomenal increase in the skill level and the services we're capable of offering. And the people of this region, quite honestly, are blessed with two very good health systems that deliver, excellent care.
Has the fact that there are two that are in somewhat of a friendly competition, has that actually advanced healthcare in the region more than it might have if there was only one of you?
I believe it has, actually, from a couple different viewpoints. One is we're always seeking to advance our care to provide better customer service. We have a competitor that's 1,742 feet away that does a good job. We need to do a better job. It allows us to use the benefit of the culture of St. Luke's, which is warm and caring caregivers, to take care of our patients. At the same time, we're constantly looking at how to advance programs, which bringing new programs to the people of our region that they wouldn't be able to receive, I think, if it was a single healthcare provider. The other side is cost. The fact when you have two competitors, it helps to hold down the cost because there is a competition on that. And I don't know how friendly it is.
John, how has the insurance industry affected how medicine is played out today?
The insurance industry has really impacted the caregivers. The amount of paperwork, the amount of pre-authorizations, the reduction in reimbursement, the constant struggle with the ever-increasing pre-authorizations and pre-authorizations for medication, arguing with an insurance company over proper care of a patient has really been detrimental. And when you see the angst and the way physicians are burdened with paperwork, it really is disheartening and sometimes, because these are people that want to take care of patients. They want to do the best thing they can for the patient, and to see them, spending hours doing paperwork for an insurance company or for a federal or state agency is really disconcerting. It's not the best use of their education and their skills to fill out form after form after form, and the amount of paperwork that a nurse has to do is just incredible. And the treatment of paper in some respects has taken over the treatment of patients, and that's sad. That's something I've really seen in my career. The level of paperwork and bureaucracy has just increased dramatically.
We have about 30 seconds left. Any one thing you want to make sure you get done in the next year?
I want to continue to support the culture of the warm and caring people that I work with. They're just phenomenal people, and they do a great job with their patients. And that's the part that I love about St. Luke's, is walking down the hallway saying hi to these people. They're wonderful caregivers.
Good. John Strange, President and CEO of St. Luke's, thank you very much for being here. All the best.
Thank you very much.
The Apostle Islands National Lakeshore in northern Wisconsin is a popular summer destination. It has 21 islands and 12 miles of mainland lakeshore managed by the United States National Park Service. Summer activities around the lakeshore include boating, camping, and kayaking. And here to tell us what's new this summer is Bob Krummenacker, the superintendent of the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. And thanks, Bob, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
For those who maybe haven't been to the Apostle Islands or haven't been there lately, give the elevator speech on what makes this a special place for you and a place that people should really want to visit.
It's one of those little-known national parks that really is as spectacular as Yellowstone or Yosemite in its own way. Lake Superior, for everyone around here knows, is just a remarkable place. That beautiful blue water, it's still amongst the cleanest water in the country. And 21 islands and great sailing and great kayaking, the sea caves, more lighthouses than any other national park in the country. We have wolves. Most people don't know that, but we have a few wolves. We have the endangered piping plover. It's just a really fine summer place, most people think, but then of course the ice caves in the wintertime.
Sure. Bob, the Apostles did suffer storm damage. Tell us about that.
Well, you'll all remember that back in late October there was a huge fall storm. It was a nor'easter that came early, and then there was another big storm in April, and we had almost hurricane force winds in both cases. The picture on the monitor is the Devil's Island Boathouse, historic boathouse associated with the light station that's out there, and it was practically destroyed. And of course, everything that's ever been built on the shores of Lake Superior eventually gets harmed somehow by Lake Superior. So our challenge right now is to figure out, can this historic building be saved, and can we do it in a way that's safe? But we have docks that are damaged, we have trails that were damaged, and so right now there's a few places around the park that are closed. We're going to get most of them open by the time most visitors come, but there's a few places like the south end of Devil's Island that will probably be closed for several years.
So are you doing anything to try to accommodate those visitors who want to get onto Devil's Island, or is there a temporary dock or anything set up?
Temporary docks out in the middle of Lake Superior are not really
Bad
feasible.
question.
Well, most people who go to the Devil's Island Lighthouse actually don't use that dock. They end up on a calm day pulling up to the rocks at the north end by the lighthouse. This is about a mile short of that. So the good news is I don't think this is really going to adversely affect that many people. But we are working as hard as we can to get design money to design the dock that has to be replaced. And then we're trying to find the money again, because everything costs something, to stabilize and then hopefully at some point, if it's feasible, restore that building.
You mentioned the ice caves briefly there a moment ago, Bob. Wow, did they become a popular attraction? Tell us about those.
Well, the ice caves have always been there.
Right.
But in 2014, you'll remember the polar vortex,
Yes.
when the world's stories about winter was everything is bad. You combine that with social media, which for the first time discovered the ice caves, the world discovered this place. So we had the caves open for 10 weeks. We saw 138,000 people, media attention worldwide. I did interviews with Al Jazeera TV and Australia's Today Show, as well as national level TV in this country. So 138,000 people is more than half the normal annual visitation of the park, all within a 10-week period in the wintertime.
Now, so many of your visitors arrive on their own boats, but what if somebody doesn't have their own boat? Is there a way to enjoy the park using amenities that you have in place, or partnerships that you have?
There sure are. It's a hard place if you're not a boater or you have no ability to spend some money. It is one of the more expensive parks to visit, I have to admit. But on the other hand, that creates a big economic impact on our community. But there's a concession operation called the Apostle Islands Cruise Service, and they provide tours out to several of the islands, and then a beautiful grand tour which visits 18 of the islands by water. So that's the basic way to visit the park in about 3 hours. You can get a tour of Raspberry Island Lighthouse doing that. There's also many outfitters that will offer fishing charters, sailing charters, and then the most popular thing would be kayak trips. And you can do half-day kayak trips to the sea caves or multi-day camping trips, all of which are on our website. And the key thing I would want to tell the public is that the outfitters are authorized by us. They have to meet certain criteria. So go to our website to make sure that the outfitter that's advertising a trip is actually authorized to operate in the national.
So the islands, Bob, are accessible year-round?
Well, if you can get there, Denny, they are accessible year-round.
Yeah.
So they don't get a lot of visitation in March or November, but if people have the ability to get out there, they are open year-round.
Are there people living on any of the islands other than Madeline?
Madeline, of course, is not in the park. It's the one Apostle Island that we don't have responsibility or jurisdiction over. There are no year-round people on any of the other islands. There's no private land on any of the other islands. There are a few families that own land that's sold to the National Park Service that have life tenure leases. There's 5 of those left right now on Rocky Island and Sand Island. But those are private enclaves, publicly owned, but they have private rights for the rest of their lives. But no one
You mentioned lighthouses. Are there several?
There are, depending on how you count, 6 light stations or 8 light towers, the ruins of a 9th, but there are more lighthouses in the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore than any other national park.
Are they still being used in some fashion?
Almost every one of them is still used as an aid to navigation by the
are.
Coast Guard. So we have an arrangement, a partnership with the Coast Guard. They maintain the lights. None of them are the historic Fresnel lenses, although the historic Fresnel lens is still in the Devil's Island Tower, and people can see that. All the ones that are still operating have little tiny electronic lights that get serviced once a year by the Coast Guard. Technology is amazing, but they are still vital for navigation.
I understand there is a new quarter that just came out.
That's right.
With the Apostle Islands on it. Talk about that.
Well, every state was given the opportunity to designate one national park or other federal property to be on a series of quarters. You'll remember the state quarters. Now we're in the national park quarter series. So Wisconsin designated the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore back in the previous administration. And then the sequence that these are put out is based on the year that the parks were actually established by Congress. So Apostle Islands National Lakeshore was 1970, so we're at the tail end of this thing. But in April, we had this remarkable public event, over 500 people. We did it on the Red Cliff Reservation in partnership with the Indian tribe. And it was just fun to release this quarter. And my staff and I and the community all had input into the design. So the view is the Devil's Island Lighthouse on top of the Devil's Island Sea Caves with a kayaker in the foreground. And it's an iconic view for this national park.
All right, something for coin collectors to collect, and those who are trying to visit all of our national parks and national lake shores, make sure you hit the Apostle Island.
Great story,
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you. People are more than welcome. We love to see them.
Since last fall, we've been featuring interviews with veterans from around the region who served in the armed forces during the Vietnam War. Tonight, we bring you the story of a Sturgeon Lake man who served 2 tours as a Marine in Vietnam. During his time in the country, he saw many of his friends die in combat and very nearly paid the ultimate price. Here's Dennis Christie's story.
I grew up in South Minneapolis, graduated from high school in 1964. I went in the Marine Corps in January '65 because I wanted to be a Marine. Got done in the Marine Corps, graduated in April 1st of '65, April Fool's platoon, and then proceeded to go to Camp Pendleton Marine Corps base. And I was an infantryman for my entire 4 years, and then we did a lot of advanced training, rubber raft training, and raider training they called it, because it was just a little more intense. Landed in Vietnam in November of '65. I was a fire team leader over there the first tour, and we were on about 4 different operations: Mallard in January '66, Orange in April '66, Macon and Hastings. That was everybody relates to that movie, and like Full Metal Jacket and Hastings and this and that. So my first tour, I had my squad leader killed in April, kid in my fire team killed, Sergeant Burton, Rollins, and a few other guys. I mean, but you know, and then they're close to home. You know, your squad integrity, because like the world is made up of everybody, but it's like a family unit, and it's gotta dwell in the family unit, because otherwise things can go to heck in a handbasket pretty fast. Like in the infantry, we were out there doing our thing and guarding everybody in the back, and then again in '68, the 10th Offensive showed up, and that's where my real story goes. Our company, India Company, there was 31 men that could go back overseas, deployable, because you had to have 6 months or more back in the States to be sent back. Well, there's 31 in my company, me and I was and then I was a sergeant at the time. I got to be promoted to sergeant, and the first time with the PFC. You know, here I am back in '68, 10th Offensive, February 13th. We were a quick response team, but there was no training. But I had to, you know, I was an E5, and I had to take these guys under my wing and kind of train them instantaneously, because we were more or less sent in the front lines right away, and there's no, it's not a good situation, but you know, I'm thankful I lived through it. And second time I was stationed south of Da Nang. First time was north of Da Nang, and this area, second time was, in fact, it's noted for booby traps and snipers, heavy infestation. In March, we were with tanks in column, and lead tank got hit. We had 1 killed, 4 wounded. I was third tank back, third squad. Well, the second time we were on line, which means you're spread out, and we were the right flank. And then I dispersed my men, because we don't want the old scenario, one grenade will get you all, you know. I was in a right tank track, and Compton and Butts are on the left tank track. And about 11:30 in the morning, heard a burst, you know, well, a burst went out. Well, then the man got me in the right forearm here, which I'm very lucky to. So I had the canteen on my right hip, or he had 2 canteens, we all had 2. And as the bullet went through my arm here, you know, and it hit the button and ricocheted off. April 23rd, Tuesday. Well, it finally happened yesterday. We were out on patrol with the tanks again in the same area where we lost the man the month before. My squad my squad was behind this tank in column. I was second from the end, and then 3 shots rang out. I got hit. The SOB got away, I'm sorry to say, but I'm okay. He hit me in the right forearm, didn't break any bones. My fingers sure aren't sore. Wounded April 23rd, and I went to Guam. I was there till, what's the end of May. I named 2 of my sons after Marines, Nathan Lee Christie and Tim Davis Christie, which my oldest son is. And Nate was an old Italian guy from Pennsylvania, and he was killed in May of '68. Tim was unfortunately, a booby trap blew both his legs off, but he's still alive. I'm not a religious guy per se, but just knowing you got your surroundings, you're safe, yeah, that's kind of the way I dealt with it. I know many other individuals, they went to the bottle, or else I got another, suicide by the bottle or whatever. But it's you got to take it, but it's sometimes tough to take. They got helmets shot off their heads, bullets through their trousers, boots shot up, and not a physical wound, but the mental stuff. And there again, like the PTSD stuff and stuff like that. So it takes its toll.
Look for our final Voices of Vietnam profiles coming up over the next few weeks.
Well, it's time now for the business headlines from the editors at Business North. Park Financial Group has reached a stock purchase agreement under which the Minneapolis-based company will make an investment in Mesaba Bank shares of Grand Rapids. Mesaba has 2 subsidiaries, American Bank of the North and Lake Bank. Park Financial is the owner of Park State Bank in Duluth. If approved by regulators, the combined bank will have assets of about $675 million. Park recently acquired Pioneer National Bank of Duluth and now has 4 offices in Duluth and 1 in Minneapolis.
A German company will acquire the outstanding shares of USG Corporation, which manufactures ceiling tiles and cloquet. The buyer, Knopf KG, said USG will continue to be managed in the United States and will retain its headquarters in Chicago. USG's president and CEO said the transaction will be good for customers and will benefit USG's employees by making them part of a global company. Family-owned Knopf expects the transaction to close in early 2019, subject to approval by regulators and USG shareholders.
Wisconsin Indian Head Technical College is launching a new nonprofit leadership program for the fall semester. The associate degree program will be offered at the Superior, Ashland, New Richmond, and Rice Lake campuses and online. The program will address strategies for raising funds, recruiting volunteers, managing fiscal requirements, and other challenges unique to nonprofits. Classes for the fall semester start on August 27th. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment on our show, now is the time to call. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. And you can visit the WDSE website for updates on our program schedule, news about your favorite PBS shows, and upcoming events here at the station. And good luck to all of the runners in town for Grandma's Marathon. It's going to be a busy weekend, Denny.
All the best to all the runners and fans.
All right, well, we're out of time. For Denny and the crew here at WDSE, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week.